F as in failure, right? That's what you thought. Maybe not. Hashtag awkward. It comes as no surprise to me that my inbox and DMs are filled with panic lash artists this time of year. We have ended the holiday season and now we've moved into that panic of the post holiday financial hangover time where clients start to tighten their purse strings just a little bit and they start sending breakup text messages like, it's not you, it's me, or I love you, I'm just not in love with your pricing during this time of year because, money's a little tight. And we as lash artists, and I get a lot of these messages, are like, oh my gosh, I have a day where I have no clients, or I have a whole week where I have no clients. And they go into this tailspin of what that must mean about them as a lash artist or as a business owner. And they freak out and they assign it the F word, failure. They are failing at lash business. They are panicked with visions of their business shutting down, or it's in jeopardy of going out of business, or that they're going to have to go get a JOB. Oh my gosh. We're a bit of a dramatic bunch, aren't we? But today I will give you the whole failure concept, a big FU. I want you to nod your head if in the last 12 months you've thought, I have failed, or this was a complete failure, or even if you fear failure as a possibility for you. Go ahead and nod now. Nod along if that's you. Yep, thousands of lash artists are now nodding along with you. It is very common to assign something a meaning of failure and then think that means something about you as a person or as an individual or as a business owner or as a lash artist. Now, I will keep this conversation today strictly about business, but you'll likely see how this big F word tends to kind of creep into other areas of our life. In fact, all areas of our life can be heavily impacted by this word failure. So let's kind of go into the mindset, you know how much I love mindset, of what is failure. Seriously, have you ever thought about what is failure? Now you're coming up with like 70 different ideas of, well, this would be a failure and this was a failure. And if I did this, I would fail. And, all of your definitions. But in reality, failure is simply something that you have made up in your head. That's it. It was an idea that you think, ooh, that would suck if that happened. That must be a failure. It might have even come from a well-meaning or not so well-meaning parent who imposed their will on you, and when you didn't meet their expectations, that was seen as a failure. Our definition of failure is an interpretation of something. But guess what? It's something that we make up. So the lesson here with what is a failure, if you created the meaning, couldn't you also change the meaning of failure? If you had assigned it a meaning as in, if I don't make $2,000 a month in my lash business, then I am a failure. Couldn't you say, hey, I made $1,000 in my business this month. I actually made money from something I love to do. It's not where I want it to be yet, but that doesn't mean that I failed. It just means that I didn't meet my expectations that I made up in the time frame that I decided was a good time frame. So if you created the meaning of failure, aren't you also capable of changing the meaning of failure? Little food for thought. Now, next thing, is failure even possible? Right? If you created it by your own definition, couldn't you also change that definition where failure isn't even a meaning of something in your life? What if failure wasn't an option, wasn't on the table? What would that open you up to do? Would you then be a little less fearful of maybe making some bold steps in your business where you're actually moving forward in your business and not as fearful of what the outcome will mean? What if you detached yourself from the outcome of whatever it is that will get you to the next level in your business and you weren't so fearful about what the outcome was, but that you were more focused on who you were and who you were becoming through the process of going through those steps? Not, if I don't do X, then I will see myself as a failure. If you assign yourself an identity of being a failure at whatever it is, business, life, relationships, you name it, does that mean that you suck and that you should give up and go hide in a hole? Or does that mean that you're unlovable or incapable of success, or even worse, unworthy of having a life that you love? Do you see how ridiculous it sounds when we start to put it into words and into language that You assign something a failure, and then all of a sudden you've got all these different meanings of what that one lesson that you should have learned by not achieving whatever expectation it was you set out is now starting to mean about you and your confidence and your motivation. You define what failure would mean to your life. My suggestion, change the meaning. Take failure off the table. I don't even want that to be a word in your vocabulary. I want you to change failure with lesson. I'm not a failure. I am learning. I am a student. I did not meet this expectation, so now I need to learn what I did along the way that I can change and feel empowered to change so that I can meet that expectation. Hell, I can even exceed that expectation in the future. And here's where failure all stems from, and that's perfectionism. Now, as lash artists in general, we are all perfectionists, right? We all have this expectation of the perfect 5D fan and the perfect line, right? We even have a style called the perfect line. Everything is about perfection in our work. And it's very detailed. So it's easy to not have something perfect because if you just kind of skip one teeny tiny detail, it can mess up an entire set, right? Or it can, how many times do you see posts on Instagram where somebody is pointing out the one fan in their set that they should have brushed down or that was too long, and they're like, oh, just ignore that. They're calling out their perfectionism and they're calling out the flaw in the photo. A client would never look at that one fan and go, oh, she didn't get it perfect, I'm not going to her. But by saying, oh, don't mind that one fan that I should have brushed down, you are drawing attention to your perfectionism and the fact that one thing in that was imperfect. Now, it sounds nice to have a lash artist that's so focused on perfectionism, but really it is something that holds you back. And it's another lie you are telling yourself that you have to, again, achieve this ideal of perfect. That, again, you made up. You made up what was perfect, because my definition of perfect is vastly different than anybody else's out there, right? What I see as a perfect application would be very different than somebody else. What I see as the perfect business is very different than what you may think is a perfect business. It is discretionary. It is individual. It is unique to you. So again, if you created the definition of what perfect is, aren't you also capable of changing that definition so that it actually serves you and motivates you rather than paralyzes you? Did it ever occur to you that perfect does not exist? And did it ever occur to you that if you continue to live in this reality where you are always trying to achieve perfect, that you'll spend the next lifetime really struggling, really feeling bad about yourself, not feeling smart enough, strong enough, good enough, pretty enough, worthy enough, all of the enoughs, because you can't achieve this thing that you made up that you would deem as perfect? And guess what? Even if you got to whatever your definition was of perfect, you've likely already created a new definition by the time you got there. So let's not spend the next week, month, 12 months, 12 years trying to achieve something that doesn't actually exist. And that is perfect. I want perfect out of your vocabulary. So there's two words you're canning out of your dictionary of words that you can use: failure and perfect, because they do not actually exist. Understood? Am I getting to you? I know that these two words are something that we as lash artists and business owners throw around regularly, but really they end up being very crippling to us in moving our businesses forward. We want to eliminate fear, and we want to be bold and empowered to move our businesses forward. And when we are trying to achieve whatever we have made up as perfect, and if we don't achieve that perfect thing that we've created, then that must mean we're a failure. It's black and white, right? It's either perfect or it's a failure. But isn't life mostly a gray area? Can't we just live in the gray area of evolving and becoming someone and something great that we love? If you want a business and if you want a life that you love, you have to let go of perfectionism and failure. You have to live in that gray area and enjoy the journey, because if you're always trying to get to a destination, you're forever going to be stuck hustling and miserable and trying to work so hard and never feeling like you're getting the results that are worthy of the blood, sweat, and tears you've put into your business or your life or your relationships or what have you. So let's remove these perfection and these failure terms from our world, and let's start to look at where we're at and focus on progress, not perfection. So you can stop chasing the perfection unicorn and embrace where you're at, perceive failures and all, and believe that you have something of value to bring the world when you're focusing on that progress and not perfection. And I would much rather see you fail and learn and evolve and grow than see you as a version of perfect, whether that's my version or your version. Because I'll be honest with you, perfect is boring, and I kind of don't want to see a lot of perfect people running around. That's why Instagram gets a little, and why people tend to gravitate towards those that are imperfect and aren't afraid to show it and are authentic and themselves on that platform, because there is so much of this perfectly curated feed. And here's my perfect lifestyle. And here's my highlight reel of all the major things that are going on in my life that are amazing and making everybody jealous. It gets old. It gets yucky. This is why I tell you to unfollow the people that make you feel negative when you're on social media, because protect your energy, protect your time, protect your mind. And if you'd like to be a part of the most imperfect community of Lash artists who are making massive progress in their businesses, you'll find no better group of successful failures at money making and at running a business than inside of the Lashpreneur Society. And I say this lovingly because I do not want them to think that they can't fail and that they assign failure to something or that they have to be perfect in order to be a part of this community. We are the biggest bunch of imperfect failures you will ever meet. And yet we are doing major things in our businesses and in our lives and achieving dreams that we never thought were possible when we held this identity of I'm a failure or I have to be perfect. The Lashpreneur Society only opens up a couple times a year. And if you want to enroll in the best effing business training the slash industry has to offer, get it, effing failure. You can sign up for our wait list at thelashpreneur.com/society. And if you're listening to this in February, well, my dear, the doors are opening very, very soon. So again, head on over to thelashpreneur.com/society to either sign up for the wait list or you'll be able to enroll there when the doors are open. And I hope to see you, a couple of failures, here soon. Have a good one.